Hi, I'm Charles Ross. I'm a university lecturer at the Royal College of Art in London. I work in the School of Fashion and Textiles. I specialise in performance sportswear design, but most of my work is being a textile geek, especially looking at the sustainability and how it interacts in the future of textiles. This is Module 3, Connecting Theory to Fashion, the Introduction to Fibres, Wool, and the Wool Life Cycle module for the Woolmark Sustainability course. Now this sustainable development theory needs to be connected to the fashion and textiles in practice. The best place to start is by learning more about the fibres and materials used to create products and how they fit into the global supply chain, which incorporates an extensive range of processes spread across global regions and employing millions of people. Once there is a greater understanding of the building blocks of the global supply chain, this programme will be able to educate about the wool life cycle in detail, thus how it can fit perfectly into the circular and regenerative future. A lot of progress has been made to make garments do less bad, but there has also been an opportunity for textiles to shift to doing good for the planet. This requires a collective effort to restore and build a future that is self-sufficient and values the resources on this planet by keeping the garments in use for as long as possible before they are returned to nature by following the circular economy principles. A textile fibre is essentially something that can be used to create a material. There are 4 key stages in the life cycle of a textile. We're looking at the production, the growing, the creation of it. We're looking at the manufacturing with it. We're looking at the bit where you and I get to use it. And finally, after we've finished with it, we have the end of life of that textile. The circular economy is about keeping the product going for as long as possible, and after it's worn out of its use, does it have a further application? A modern interpretation of this is what we call the linear economy, where we take the textile, we make with it, and then we dispose of it at the end of life. The common word or the common expression now being used is the circular economy. The easiest definition that I work to on the circular economy is when we get that disposal stage and we monetize it, because only a fool would throw away something worth money. The circular economy is about keeping the product going for as long as possible, and after it's worn out of its use, does it have a further application? Traceability goes hand in hand with the words transparency, and it's easier to talk about transparency first. Transparency is where you know every stage that fibre has been through. So literally, you know it starts on a farm, it gets shorn, the greasy wool goes to a processor, that ends up as a material, the material creates a garment. So that's having the transparency of who does what in the whole process. Traceability is where we can identify a particular batch. So we can see a farm who creates a certain, in this case, type of wool, and we can track it the whole way through the process. Now, although that creates a very pleasant story, it also gives us security for when we need to go backwards if we're identifying problems. This is also the area that you'll find the expression blockchain comes up an awful lot. There is a transparency of seeing the whole system, but the traceability is identifying the goods on each stage through that system. Starting with production. What we take off the back of a sheep is what we call greasy wool. Now, greasy wool is absolutely ideal if you're a farmer, but for us in the textile trade, it needs further refinement. Obviously, we need to clean it to take out whatever was on the back of the sheep, but we also need to remove things like the lanolin content of that wool. The lanolin content is what makes it so weatherproof. We can then spin it into a yarn. So that's what we call the production, taking it from the sheep to ending up with a yarn, which of course then goes into a material. The next stage is manufacturing, and don't get confused at this stage. Some people think of it as it's the manufacturing to take the yarn into a material. It's more a generic phrase, and we're presuming production is giving us the material. The manufacturing is the making of the garment. So it's all the ingredients coming together at once: the thread, the trims, and the materials. The third stage is the use, because we now have the product created and we get to have it and we can use that product. Now, the single most important thing about having this product is we actually need to love it. And it's up to the designers and the fabric developers to create a garment that we want to hold on to and keep using. It is said that up to 80% of a garment's overall impact is decided upon at the design and the fabric development stage. This does not mean that the production of the garment is worth 80% of the footprint. It's just what designs you put it into and how the fabric is created will mean how long the garment will last for. We all know the difference between slow fashion and fast fashion, whether it's styling compared to fashion or trend. That is a question that has other avenues to be answered. But as people who are looking at the design and the development of the fabric, you will start to ask questions about the longer the garment lasts, the greater the impacts from the laundering of the process. Now, yes, that's very true. But one thing I know for certain is that laundering a garment is a lot less an environmental footprint than the recreation of a garment. So if you love a garment and then dispose of it and replace it, that's going to be a much bigger impact than keeping the same garment through the time period. The other area where wool now kicks in with extra benefits is that the keratin fibre is naturally antibacterial, so we're not going to get the growth of odours. This means that the wool garment is going to continue to perform at a high level far beyond the amount of times we can use polyester or cotton, and those fabrics need to be revitalised by going for a wash. The after-use phase. This is where you'll hear expressions being applied like the circular economy. It is when we are no longer using the garment. So everyone who thinks the short answer to the circular economy is just to recycle it when it's fallen out of love is wrong. The quality of a woolen garment will show through higher than almost anything else. This is also associated to what we call the durability of a garment. Now, there are three different durabilities of a garment. Most people talk about the physical durability, so how long it takes for the garment to show wear and tear. On to the next stage, which is fit durability. Fit durability is best seen on growing kids, people who grow out of garments before the garments have worn away. But the most influential durability is what we call emotional durability, which is how long do I love this garment for to keep using. The other side of emotional durability, as applied to fast fashion, is emotional obsolescence. The third stage is the use, because we now have the product created and we get to have it and we can use that product. Now, the single most important thing about having this product is we actually need to love it. And it's up to the designers and the fabric developers to create a garment that we want to hold on to and keep using. And almost, as you can with a woolly jumper, you can pass it down over decades and even in my family, through generations. We all know the difference between slow fashion and fast fashion. Your challenge is, as a textile designer, garment designer, fabric developer, however you're tagged, is to create a garment that encompasses the whole of this. So we're looking at the sustainability driver, but we're also making a garment that people want to buy. It's not an oxymoron. The two can combine together. Think back to your favourite pair of jeans. That is your challenge, and you can do it.